Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Mooncolony live stream. It's great to see you all. See some familiar faces in the chat. It's nice to see you. Hi, Marco. Hi, Christina. Of course, you're in here. Hopefully, the people whose work we'll be reviewing today are in here as well. I did send everybody a message. But thank you so much to all the amazing submissions. Today, we're doing an art critique session with one of our amazing art directors, Arthur Bozonnet. Lovely to have you, Arthur. Would you like to sort of just tell us? Yeah, thank you. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself, sort of what it is that you did at Mooncolony, or maybe what you've done before you started at Mooncolony? I know you're fairly new. You're fairly new to us, so.
Sure. So I joined Mooncolony in November, and I did a short, like a month test before that. So for the past 10 plus years, I've been doing concept art, illustration for a variety of games, but the past 6 years was mostly doing illustration for Hearthstone. So it's been a pretty interesting ride, and I didn't really picture myself becoming an art director, but when I was working on another job, I collaborated with Mooncolony, and Jill, our HR manager, offered me the job of one of the positions of art directors that were available at the time. And at the time, I was still employed, so it didn't make sense for me to move on. But the company that I was working at the time, they had to close the shop, so I just reached out to Jill, even though it had been a year since we had last chatted, and thankfully the job was still open, the position of art director was still open, so I was super psyched to join, because it's a great opportunity, and I've already, in just 1 month, I've been working on like a crazy number of projects and I've discovered a crazy number of super talented artists, not those who are working already with us, potential recruits, and it's been a crazy busy month, and I've been really overjoyed to join the team.
Oh, well, thank you. Such kind words. But no, I mean, welcome. It's great to have you, and it's nice to have you on the stream as well. I know we spoke about it pretty much as soon as you started. It was like, let's get you on the stream. But thank you so much. Sure. Let's sort of get right into it. We only have sort of around about an hour today, so let's
for sure
get started. So the first person that we'll be looking at today is Kindled, I believe is their Discord name. If you're in the chat, this goes for any of our people today. If you're in the chat, say hi, let us know you're there, and feel free to ask any questions as we go along, and we'll do our best to answer them. Yeah, they are here.
Hey,
Kindled Dawn. Hello, it's nice to see you. Welcome. So I'll just give a brief overview of what they said about their work and what they're looking for feedback on. So they said that they're struggling with their brush economy and overworking on a lot of their pieces. They've tried to minimize that on this current one, but they're not really sure how well it's going for them. But they're also going back to looking at their fundamentals, but they're open to sort of any and all critiques and guidance. I think this is a very open-ended piece for you to kind of just say what you see, basically.
Okay. For sure. Okay, so all right. So the first thing I see is that I think is what is complicating your task is that there's it's a busy scene, it's a complicated scene, and there's a sort of sense of space that's a bit hard to tackle. So what I would recommend for this piece and for your next works is to start dealing with perspective. So I'll make a perspective grid for you here, and you'll see right away it will help us like sense how space is arranged, and it will suggest right away some solutions for your composition. So I'm just copy pasting a finishing point. I'll stretch it to one side. So what perspective is supposed to show is basically a series of lines that cross each other at a perpendicular angle. At least that give that impression. So I'll duplicate the vanishing point I just created. I'll slide it over, and I'll stretch it until it looks like those perpendicular lines are like display a kind of realistic or natural looking sort of sense of space.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll duplicate it again and I'll stretch it up like this. So you see now we have like nice stretched out like sort of tiles,
And a lot of people, there's a lot of different ways you can do these
Mhm.
perspective lines, right? I know a lot of people like to do them manually. There's some plugins I think you can get for Photoshop that do it as well, or where you're doing it as
For sure.
copy paste or something.
Yeah, I have this this file here. It's very I've had it since before I think there was any plugin or anything, so I just kept it. It's just like a set of vertical lines and a vanishing point like this.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, very very old school. So then I'll just merge this thing. So here's our perspective grid, right? Now your piece has a nice little Dutch tilt, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So we'll tilt that composition there. Like this. I think I'm on point. Yep. Okay. So now here, I'll reduce the opacity of the perspective grid. And so you see right away what we see is that some lines could be corrected.
Yeah. So you just follow those lines that you've already got put down.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very lazy work. It's it's not complicated. Once it's the hard part of this is to like get used to setting up a perspective grid that's believable. Like a common mistake is to make vanishing points too close together. So like very quickly those tiles become sort of distorted, like the further you go from the horizon, they become kind of crazy. And if you try to follow them, like your characters have this crazy sort of fisheye, distortion to them. So yeah, a good way to study that, just sort of to sort of retro engineer or retro understand perspective, is to try to slap like copy paste vanishing points on like pictures and try to sort of sense, like for cities, cityscapes is very easy to do. This way you get a sense of how things should be spaced. Yeah, so I would do something like this. Maybe avoid a square shape for the table. It's a bit too simple, too basic. Anything that's not perfectly square is nice. We'll see in the later piece we're going to critique that right angles are kind of sort of they arrest a bit too much the composition. I always sort of try to privilege I prefer diagonals and stuff like that. Or anything not perfectly square or not perfectly round. But anyway, move on to the sofa.
There's
right
well
here.
something to get used to when you're using perspective grid. At least for me, anyway. It's like a lot of there's a lot of visual noise there. There's a lot to look at. It can be quite hard.
Especially if somebody else is especially if it's someone else's perspective grid.
Yeah.
But you get used to it. Like one way to go around this is to like color your vanishing points differently, like so that you know exactly like what you're supposed to focus on. Because sometimes like they sort of merge together, like like everything sort of blends. Like the change in angle is too subtle to really guess to sense exactly what's going on. So yeah, for sure, it takes a while to get used to, but it's super. Talking about fundamentals, what could be improved, like that if you can really develop a strong sense of perspective, you'll set yourself apart from like the beginner artists. Like your work is like you're like not a beginner. I'm addressing, of course, the person, the artist here. You're not like an absolute beginner, but because you're not tackling perspective yet, it still sort of burdens you, like kind of keeps you in that sort of very that beginner category a little too much, I think. It's it's not too complicated if you know how to do it. Like this perspective, great thing. Just like I said, practice on like existing pictures. Try to sort of retro engineer your perspective, and then you can even like save those perspective grids from pictures that you like. Save them and then use them later in your own composition and sort of reinterpret what's going on within those shots. But yeah, that's something I suggest. So here, for example, the roof here, right? Based on our new perspective, like understanding of perspective, it should be something more like this. I don't know if you want to have the roof continue like this, or if there would be maybe a wall breaking that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in general, I think, like considering your level right now, I would suggest doing like simpler compositions at first. This is very busy, very complicated. Like dealing with interactions between characters, it's really advanced, and it's less frustrating if you already have stronger basics, stronger fundamentals. So you're pretty good already. I mean, this is a nice. I can understand the identity of the characters just from what they look like. It's already pretty nice. I just think you need to sort of further your grasp on fundamentals. And I think perspective would really this is like the sort of hidden missing thing that it's not very obvious. It's not super evident at first, because we think that's a sort of matter of pride that I also had before. Like I can wing it. My eye is good enough. I can I'll figure something out. And you can for the simpler compositions, but as soon as you have like furniture, a bunch of characters, a change in elevation, a Dutch tilt, forget it. But yeah, so that's my suggestion here. I'm sorry, but I think I have to move on already to the next one. It's crazy how quickly the time flies. But yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, if you have any questions, then it might be worth asking them, and then if we have time at the end, I could swing back around to them.
Sure. Sure.
So, Kindle, if you have any questions,
and by the way,
know.
like, yeah, for sure. And by the way, like, I want to say, like, if feel free to reach out to me. Like, I'm on the server as well. Like, if you had further questions that come out later, or if you want like a more in-depth look, feel free to just message me. I'll address these. But yeah, sorry, gotta already on to another place.
Time flies.
Yeah. All right, so here, this one.
Yes. So,
very cool. Do you want to introduce it, or?
Yeah, sure. So okay. This is Lizzie's. Hello, Lizzie. If you're in the chat, be sure to say hi. They said they're trying to show off their costume design variation and keep it cohesive with their character design concept. They're trying to push their rendering and design abilities, trying to get that Baldur's Gate 3 sort of concept art style. I think a lot of people are going to slowly start going to Baldur's Gate now. They'd love feedback on the design, rendering, and the presentation. So the design on the left needs more rendering, but the rest of them are finished. So the left isn't.
Sure. Okay, so it's not the most important, but I'll start with the presentation. I would totally avoid purely black backgrounds, because a lot of the edges of your character are becoming hard to perceive, to decipher. So here is what it would look like in a more like, because this is concept art, so of course you want something that conveys the mood as much as possible, but it still needs to be clearly read. And concept art implies like somebody down the line in your team or your client will have to sort of use this design and take it from there. So you want to display information clearly. If you want to add a bit of grounding, like a grounding element is this sort of like a reflection on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's always, it's very easy to do. You know, I just did it with a marker and sort of like with a blurry, like a soft round eraser. I just sort of erase the bottom here. We can do a little foreshadow, sort of occlusion shadow underneath the feet. Very soft, you know, just to sort of ground the character, avoid this feeling of it floating in the air like this. It's not so cool. Yeah, but this way, right away, I can identify the main read of the character, which is the silhouette. You know, that's the first thing you sort of judge is how the silhouette works. So that brings us to our second point, which is design, right? So your design is interesting. It's sophisticated. That's always good, you know. Sophistication and subtlety and skill. That's what makes great designs. You know, not necessarily by sophisticated. I don't mean complicated or complex or busy. It just means that there's a nice variety of materials of ideas in there presented there. Maybe a little too much. But anyway, like one thing that I would suggest right away for the design is to avoid. That's also a common like early problem. It's to avoid things being segmented too evenly, you know. So I see a bit of, you know, a bit of even segmentation in the proportions of the character. It's, you know, it's what I would really encourage is to do something like this. Consider the face and the head like the center of attention, and have your designs subtly point towards the face, you know. And the further you are from the face, and let's include the upper chest, the shoulders, and stuff like that. The further you are from there, the simpler the design should be, and the more like the longer those elements should be. You know, try to avoid like too small things there. You can have them, but the read, like they shouldn't read as too busy. So, for example, what you have here with the laces, it's actually pretty good because there's a lot of busy little shapes, but the color contrast and value contrast is not super distractive. You know, distracting, I mean, sorry. So it's actually like good. That's what it means for the overall read. Like we have the silhouette, that's good. Then within that we have like this sort of primary shapes, right, of the within that silhouette, and those primary shapes should read as like simple the further they are away from the head. And then within those shapes, those like you know, secondary and tertiary shapes should then be sort of accommodate the read, you know, so not be too busy, not be too contrasted in terms of color and value. So yeah, so let me just blur that and suggest some modifications. So busy around the face is awesome. You know, it's it retains the attention of the viewer there, you know, so whatever you can add, you know, flowers, beads, dreadlocks, all that is great, you know. Then I would probably either, like here you have sort of an even thing, right? So you have to make a choice. Either the loincloth or like this sort of the paler cloth is longer and you shorten this, or the other way around, you know, it's like a shorter thing here and then a longer shooting thing here. Either are cool. I don't know. It's really up to you because it conveys different things. You know, like a shorter sort of skirt type of thing there. Especially, I mean, it doesn't have to be bare legs underneath, but sort of shorter loin area here tends to be more I don't know, youthful, less traditional. A longer skirt there, you know, the opposite, or maybe more functional, more like an apron or something. Yeah. And so first, that's my first note right on design is like sort of break off I try to avoid mid-size, like, you know, mid-size shapes everywhere. Try to sort of make it varied. My second note would be to use a bit more diagonals. You know, we have a lot of right angles. It's okay, but it's very still, you know, so if you want this character to be like that, to read as like a sort of still, you know, like, you know, it's like kind of a square, you know, because shapes convey a sense of a bit the personality, right? So I was first I was thinking, oh, these guys are like in tune with nature. They're very organic. I was thinking, oh, this is way too square. They should be maybe more, like S shapes, like very organic, spontaneous shapes right everywhere, like vines and stuff like that. But then I read the brief again, and I saw like, oh, actually that they've been there for thousands of years. They have like a city, like their largest city. So it makes sense then that they have more square, sort of organized shapes like that. So actually, it's not a, I wouldn't criticize you on that for sure. If that's how you want to do it, that's okay. What I would suggest, however, is to break off the right angles because they're a bit too similar everywhere still. So maybe use more diagonals. Those diagonals could also point, sort of shoot up towards the focal area. So that's always nice. Diagonals are great for that.
Yeah.
Because long, even lines, vertical lines, they're okay for like priests, maybe, like sort of very centered, personalities like that, but they tend to be boring. So even that you want to break it off a little bit. If for example the cloth is supposed to be super straight, don't make it like wave a little bit or like make folds that are like kind of flopping in the wind or something. That's just a suggestion. It's already better here, I feel, right? It's already more like simpler shapes, like simpler overall forms, I mean, on the lower part of the character. But still, though, there's still this idea of maybe a design being a little too, like, design areas being a little too even in that area here.
Yeah.
Even the hat, I think the hat could be a little more daring in terms of proportion. Something taller, maybe.
It's really
It
interesting.
would give a stronger personality.
I've never thought about the segments, like those design segments before. Something that you don't, like, that's never really crossed my mind when looking at people's work. So hearing it, it's like, of course, yeah, of course it makes sense. It would look odd if everything is like the same distance apart.
Yeah, because as a younger artist, I mean younger in career artist, we tend to like how to say we think, oh, this is too empty. I need to fill it in, right? And depending on your level of zoom in, of how zoomed in you are, you'll sort of treat like your eye as this sort of focal area, like this ability to focalize on one given area at the same time. So if you work at that scale, you're just your eyes will focus on one area like this, like that, but they're all the same size, like your areas of focus. So you tend to treat everything within the same scale. And so I would recommend you look at the works of Baldi Conine, because he has like, this is like one of the best designers I've seen, character designers. He can leave like the whole area underneath the belt like very empty. I mean, seemingly empty. There's nothing much, but it's very simplified. It's hard to simplify and it's hard to keep things simple, but he can do it very well. So definitely look him up.
What was the name again?
Yeah. Baldi, Baldi, Baldi,
Yep.
Conine, Konijn, I think.
Yep.
He's a Dutch artist.
Cool. I'll put a link in chat.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, once again, I have to move on. This is so cool because I could really spend a long time just like suggesting little things. But again, like if you have more questions addressing the artist here, feel free to reach out. Yeah. I'd be happy to.
Something that I'll say about that one just quickly, going back to like the presentation, is that you've it's like quite a basic thing, and I think a lot of people forget about it, but you've got dark text on a dark background, which can sometimes be quite hard to read. So like it's a simple thing, just lighten up the text a little bit if you're going to have a darker background, but if you're going to change it anyway, then keep it in mind.
Yeah,
so that's all. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
But thank you very much. Yes,
yeah,
this one.
Thanks for the submission.
Cool. Yeah, this one is Emmanuel Wards. So if you're here, Emmanuel, then say hi. Let us know. But their character is called Angela, and they represent the Adidas clothing brand. Which is cool.
Nice. Yep.
They wanted to pop more with the dragon/samurai theme. But they'd like notes on
Mhm.
improvements to the character design, along with values, silhouettes, etc.
Sure.
Loads of
Okay.
stuff. But
Yeah, for sure. Design is great. I like it a lot.
mhm.
Very cool. Very cool rendering skills. Very cool. Yeah, it's all very under control. Very nice. One thing I would suggest, however, is I think the star on the face is a bit off topic, as well as the sort of safety pin there. It's off topic, so let's remove it because that area is busy already.
Yeah.
I'll just yeah.
Oh, they are in chat. Hello, how's it going? Welcome.
Hey. Yeah. And so what we'll do then, I'm trying to be as quick as possible with coloring that star because yeah, I think it's just it's nice. It's a nice decorative element, but it's just not really helping convey the incarnation of Adidas or like this sort of thing. It's not really, and we have already a lot of symbols everywhere.
Yeah.
Same for here. I'll just remove it. We'll do something else though, because that's if I remove these, suddenly it's maybe a little empty or not buried enough. So I'll sorry, just quickly cover that. By the
Really
way,
like.
one thing we could do for next. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I really like the texture of the hair though. Like the way that you've painted the
Yeah,
hair is really nice.
yeah. You don't notice it at first, like it's kind of like a soft sort of noise, in the hair, but it really helps. It really helps, yeah, for sure. Okay, so yeah, all right. So here now, it's a bit better. Now what I would suggest is this. Take some yellow and put some lining here under the hat. And the reason I'm saying this is because there's a bit of a blending together, a bit of merging between the dark of the hat, the dark of the hair, and the dark of the skin, even though the skin is lighter. So I think a nice Adidas, on brand sort of lining would be cool.
Yeah, let's break those silhouettes up.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, I'm curious. This is just a question for me. But was this like a personal project, or was this for Adidas? Out of curiosity. Sure, you wouldn't be asking us for critique if it was for Adidas, but
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. I've had some people ask me for like some people have subscribed to like my Patreon and then ask me like, hey, so can I send you just work like, and you'll
can you be my art director?
It's kind of funny because yeah, right. It's like, well, no, not really. I didn't sign an NDA with your client. Your boss or whoever. Nice try though.
Yeah.
Okay. Could be worth exploring just a bit of doubling the lining. I don't think it's working well. Let's just keep it like this. Okay. Maybe just, of course, a bit of gradient for the shadow there because it's too bright. By the way, everything that's a good thing to keep in mind in general for art, whether it's illustration or design. Every surface should have a gradient. Like nothing should be left flat. It kind of makes sense, because light always, like form always changes, light always changes, so it's normal that no surface should be flat, but it bears keeping in mind, like systematically, just constantly just try to sense, okay, which direction should the gradient go, how strong should be, how, all that.
Cool.
Okay. Now, one thing we can see now is that maybe the shape of the hat is a little off. Not so much its position in respect to the face, but its cohesiveness, like the coherence of the design is a bit off now. So I'll just flip the canvas and take that area here. Because I think the visor is okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say for everyone in chat is like, oh my god, this is so nice. But this is Emmanuel Ward's. They're in the Discord, so go and send them some love. Emmanuel, if you want to post your portfolio, if you've got one, then please do.
For sure. Oh, it's really amazing, man. It's a very nice piece.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah. You see, I would just do this. That's pretty simple, just like a sort of free transform.
Mm-hmm.
And just move that logo over like that. I would then probably, Jesus, time really flies. That's gonna be my last note. I'm sorry, but well, I'll say something else. But just before I move on, I'll say I just sort of straighten out the visor here, like make it thinner, you know. Yeah. Okay, so I have my own notes here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, sure. It's okay for me if we run over, but I just don't want to take any more time out of your day.
Oh, sure.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually meeting in half an hour, so.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, so last thing I'm going to mention is just the contrast. You see here, I'm adding some like a black and white sort of filter there, and you should try to keep the pure black around the face, like the pure contrast. So the brightest brights, the darkest darks, sort of around the face, and even if it's just a very subtle gradation, a very subtle lightening or darkening, you should try to apply it. So for example, here the sharpest contrast is around the foot, which is not the best. I mean, it's Adidas, so it's a nice, it's an Adidas sneaker. It's definitely like on topic, right? But I feel the face should really like capture all that thing. So try to darken, even so ever so slightly. Try to darken the pure whites you have in some places, and just try to brighten the pure blacks you have in other places, and trying to make sure that they're all corralled in that area here on the face and the chest and the shoulders.
Cool.
But yeah, like really amazing work.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
I'm
nice
saving these, and I'll send the. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I'm saving all these PhDs, these Photoshops, like things, and because some have some are floating. I want to make sure you can, like, the first artist, that you can reuse this perspective grid, for example, and see the notes separately. So I'll send these over in the art critique, thread, or the category, I guess, of the Discord server. Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
It's an interesting piece, yeah.
Yeah. So this one is ATTLTs. So if you're here, say hi. Let us know. This is a work in progress. Looking for any suggestions on improving the lighting, mostly, especially the cool ambient light coming from above. I think they're a bit concerned about the colors and values as well. They feel like the piece is too dark and that the character doesn't. They said that their character doesn't unify with the background enough, but I'm not entirely sure what I mean by that.
Okay. Yeah. So what I think you mean is that they like the character is clearly on a separate plane, from the background. Okay. Like the background seems distant, and the character seems like sort of like superimposed over it. So pretty easy to fix. First of all, I would like to maybe tilt that character like this, maybe tilt the whole thing. Yeah, I think it's better.
Yeah.
Then let's address your concerns about the lighting. So to unify the character with the background, there's two things you can do. First of all, the first one is to sort of have an ambient light, sort of like a rim light. Like rim lights, we associate them with like a strong, like a spotlight from behind. Like a strong unique light source coming from behind and like striking the character at a specific angle. You can try that. But what I was going to suggest is like a sort of rim light that's just the ambient light sort of wrapping around, like just the environment sort of dimly lighting the and softening the edges of the character. So that would be something like this. You know, some of the folds and pleats of the robe here could receive a bit of that sort of very dim and very soft, not directional at all. It's just sort of the atmosphere kind of affecting the edges of the character.
Yes, that rim light is like wrapping around them a little bit.
Yeah.
Surprising how much of a
And that's
difference
something else.
just
Yeah.
standing up more upright makes as well. It really changes the mood of the piece a lot more. Like it makes them look a lot more intimidating.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so that would be it. Especially like the armor, like would catch a very nice like version of that sort of wraparound rim light, you know, sort of wraparound ambient spectre. Like with the Hearthstone art manager, Jeremy Cranford, like because this is also important in Hearthstone art. Like the style of Hearthstone needs to be like have painterly, softer, friendly edges. And to do that, we use a lot of that, you know, that sort of wraparound thing. But we are struggling to find a name for it. So every time I would just describe it as like, yeah, this soft wraparound, ambient specular, whatever that meant, you know. But yeah, so there's, you see, like that sort of thing is super, is great because it's very easy, it's very cheap to, in terms of effort, it's very labor non-intensive. Because you only treat a very like a small sliver, very narrow sliver of the whole character. But wherever you go, you can suggest a bit of the texture. You know, like you can add noise for the texture of the sort of rough spun, you know, damaged tunic here. This damaged robe can be a smoother and cleaner on the metal. You know what I mean? It's like you can suggest a lot of material information and texture information in just a very narrow and very useful band of like a sliver of detail already.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your exercise. I'll just give you the PSD, keep KTTIT, and you'll just like finish this thing, right? You'll just put it everywhere. Then, okay, so second thing to unify the background with the character is to add like things that echo each other in different planes, right? So you have the background column and the background, right? So in the foreground, it would be cool to have like, well, either maybe that's the character is too close to the foreground to us, so adding a sort of piece of masonry of broken, like of ruin, might be too much. Although, I mean, I guess it can work. It's maybe just a little like this. Before it was a little too much like this, and it was creating a sort of weird angle with the blade. So I'm just moving it to the side, and it's really like a very subtle. It's not supposed to attract the attention. You're not supposed to say, "Oh, wait a minute, I see another column here." It's just a weird, peripheral, almost subliminal indication that this is not just a gratuitous column, or maybe it's a sword, a giant sword. I'm not sure. That's there in the back. You can make an echo of here, right there, with like. Even repeating this sort of angle here, this sort of, you know, this thing right here. You can repeat it here. And that's already a good way to do that. And you can, of course, add more like a mid-ground sort of elements here, more fallen ruins or something, on stones. So echoing that sort of motif you have in the background like elsewhere. Yeah. Then it was not. Oh yeah. So for the cold light, right? That needs to be addressed. Yeah, your piece is a bit dark, right? So let's see what we can do here. Get a soft brush and we do soft light. Let's roll with soft light. Pick a very desaturated, very light blue, and we'll sort of brighten up. We'll just add a sense of volume, right? Because now your character is not flat. It's just overall a bit too. There's too many like dark and mid tones.
Yeah.
So the highlights could be very concentrated, you know, because it's metal. So you don't want to like wash everything in this pale light, right? But still, let's see if we can sort of with the lasso here, for example. Let's see if we can convey a bit more volume on the armor. So I use the lasso to quickly, you know, make these changes without worrying about, you know, bleeding into the elsewhere on the design. And I'm gonna try to concentrate the lighting on that edge, you know, sort of inner edge, to really show that you know, to convey the proper information of volume.
And you're using soft light, the layer mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Soft light and a soft round brush. Your very basic Photoshop thing here. I'll hide my selection. To hide your selection, I don't know if you know it. It's Control H.
Okay.
That's useful, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll same thing here. So because it's further, like the shoulder is rotated, sorry, further away from the light source, it should catch less of that. It should display the light less strongly. You know?
Yeah.
Select this part here. So basically all that's on the left of the ridge there, the sort of central ridge of the character.
Okay. It's always surprising how much of a difference these like small changes can make.
Yeah, that's my favorite, you know, like small changes using very basic tools.
Yeah.
That's not trying to shill any special brush, you know.
Yeah. What do you mean? We gotta sell our Mooncolony brush sets. They don't exist yet, but when they do,
you do? Okay. All right. You know what? Let's get that off the record.
Yeah, we have like an ongoing joke that we're gonna make some Mooncolony brush sets. Best.
Okay. Well, we'll shield these in time then, in due course.
Yeah.
But for now, let's just the fundamentals. Yeah, so I won't apply it there because the design and the rendering is still like not finished yet. So you would need like sort of softer transitions there, because if I start adding like soft light, it will make look too noisy and busy. So
yeah,
it's not really there. But overall, and also like try to keep in mind the same idea of gradient, right? Nothing should be evenly lit. So that's the case already in like within each form that we just treated, right? So this sort of waist area here, the chest area, the shoulder pads, all are already display some nice gradient. But then you have to sort of zoom out and treat the armor also as a whole, like the whole character just as a whole, and apply sort of gradients to it, you know. So don't evenly don't light the knee as evenly and brightly as the chest, you know. It should be much more subdued and yeah. So yeah, that's yeah, I think if I were you, just my last comment, trusting the artist, just design something for the arm here, because it's too like straight and like sort of cylindrical and very simple, and it should contrast with the handle of the sword, which is also cylindrical and simple. So keep the sword as it is, but add something that echoes the sort of shape design we have in elsewhere in the armor, like a nice gauntlet or an arm brace or something.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Scale armor.
Scale armor. And let's ignore that. Perfect. We're good to go. I'll save this and send you the PSD later. All right.
Very much.
Yeah, and last but not least.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. This name is it's either ALCH. I'm going to say ALCH. It's like 4 letters. So ALCH. Hello, if you're here, say hi. This one was another one where they're just pretty straightforward with what they want. Any problems with anatomy and perspective, since they're struggling to get that depth, they originally
Sure.
want.
Okay. Okay, so let's address anatomy right away. Your arm there, like that connection, the shoulder connection to the forearm, and the arm is a bit is missing, right? So and you have a sort of a tangent here. By the way, sorry, I'm speaking too fast because I think I've only have like 14 minutes, but it's okay. We have plenty of time. And so let me say first of all, that's a great looking piece. Like that's a great looking, piece of work. So congratulations on that, first of all.
Yeah.
Really nice work. So yeah, you see, I think the arm creates kind of a tangent with the hat.
Oh yeah.
And then the arm again. So design-wise or composition-wise, it's not a great choice, and also anatomy-wise, it's not a great choice. So let's address that. Hair, usually like if you put a hair there, it sort of cuts the anatomy a little too much. So I would suggest showing maybe, even if it's subtle, if it's just a little bit, showing a bit of the shoulder here. We have one shoulder here, show the other one here, and then have the hair do all kinds of crazy stuff, like overlap and then continue, like that, like you have there. So then the shoulder should definitely connect with the arm around that point here, and then continue. So on the, like in the back would be something like this.
Yeah, because at the minute it looks a little bit disjointed. It's not part of the shoulder, not attached to the shoulder.
Yeah, right. It's a little too distant from the, like the rest of the chest.
Yeah.
And in terms of perspective, you don't have to foreshorten so dramatically. I think you can make the arm a little thicker in that area because it's not so far away from the character, like the main part of the body. And also it should be shorter though. Like now the back arm is very, very long, So let's shorten that. And maybe keep the hands, something like this. Like about that scale. That's what I would do. Maybe we can reduce its size a little bit, but not too much. Sketching with a sharp pen is not a great idea. Anyway, okay, so that's my suggestion anyway. And then, okay, so anatomy-wise, I think you're okay, even though I think you could use maybe like just an indication of the foot here. Would be cool. It's hard. It's really hard in that pose. I agree, but you have to figure it out. There's no way. Like you cannot just have both feet completely missing below the knee.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's like,
yeah, it doesn't look like they have any feet.
Yeah, one is okay. It's okay, even though I would suggest having just the tip of one shoe or something, or like this, just right there, But one foot should be at least in view. But it's super hard. I don't blame you for trying to get away with it. Okay, but that's about it for the anatomy. Otherwise, it looks pretty decent. Maybe elongate the neck. I would maybe like have her head start a little higher. It's also more slender, to go with her slender, figure. Her slender proportions. Just maybe the neck being a little longer would be cool. But that's about it for the anatomy. Then what I would do is, so let me see how I could. Oh, okay, no, that was somebody else. Okay, so secondly, let's address some design problems. So you have the face in profile like this, kind of slightly, 3/4, I guess, or slightly angled that direction. So that's very nice. But the hat is a little too frontal in its view. It's a bit too even, on the side, so it's a bit too frontal. So that's I would make it like more like this.
Okay, yeah. So just make sure it lines up with the same way the face is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And compress the right side curve a little more this way, so we sort of display a nice volume for the thing.
Yeah.
And one thing that's also a bit not great, by the way, great rendering skills, great sense of composition overall. It's really good. However, you're not super rigorous with the design, and I think that's kind of a sort of a weakness you have in that's something that's a shame, because you're so good at painting that it's a shame if your design doesn't catch up to it.
Yeah.
So there's in terms of consistency just with real world, even though it's obviously like a fantasy piece, there's some things could be more true to nature. For example, like a flintlock mechanism in your version here, it's kind of an abstract sort of, overall it sort of suggests the shape of a flintlock pistol, like a sort of pirate era pistol.
Yeah.
But I think the true strength of the design would be to take the mechanisms of the flintlock pistol, see how it works, just check 5-minute YouTube video. It's very, concise nowadays, and just understand the basics of how it works, how this thing just here, how this plate sort of will rotate and like strike. By the way, this should be armed like this. Like this is also a rotating plate, so this should go like this, and basically there will be a stone here, and as you press the trigger, this arm here moves forward and strikes the plate, creates a spark, and then ignites the powder in the thing, right, in the gun. So with that understanding in mind, let's sort of design. That could be the rotating plate. That's great. Keep using that shape. It's no problem at all.
Yeah.
Maybe more like this sort of S-shaped, design would be cool. So like this, and then try to design a kind of a striker like this. You can reinterpret like the shapes in a fantasy way or exaggerated, stylized, whatever you want, but make sure you sort of think them out,
Yeah.
And then the trigger mechanism is a bit too narrow. Like there wouldn't be space for to put the finger there. And because she just fired, like we see the smoke coming out of the gun, of the barrel, her finger should be in the trigger port, the trigger hole there, and it should be a bit more just overall accommodating. So you can even keep this shape, it's not bad, but just make it a little, more space for the finger. Yeah. Okay, so that's almost it. I have one last notice for so for the consistency of the design as well, like so that's in the same vein as what we've discussed for the gun. It would be cool if we saw more structure to the ship, right? Because right now what I see is maybe the ship goes that way a little bit, like there's some, but then we have a mast there and another mast here. So you know what I mean? It's a bit kind of all over the place, the geometry of the ship. So I would try to make it more, even though it's not like a huge problem, but it's something I noticed that maybe it's consistent with that gun problem. It's a bit to be a bit more rigorous, a bit true to nature, for the design, and then reinterpret those basic shapes. That will really propel your work into like undoubtedly like professional level because the rendering is already there. Yeah, and so very last note. I'm gonna have to go in 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
It's atmosphere. So you could like express depth, like which I think was one of your questions, a bit more clearly, and, by adding the gradient of like atmosphere. Could be smoke, could be like a surf, like spray, spray from the sea. I'm using a soft round brush here, but feel free to use something with more noise, more texture, more smoke, more smoky grain to it. But try to add some sort of atmospheric gradient. This can also apply to the character. Make sure to soften the edges of the character, just it's the same comment as before, right? Like this idea of a wraparound ambient light that sort of slightly softens the edges of the character. And that binds the character nicely with its surrounding environment. It makes it feel grounded.
Yeah, amazing.
And that down here because it's further away. And above this, let's add maybe some sort of fiery reddish glow. Well, as that nice atmosphere as well. You see how that sort of suddenly, like with these basic atmospheric or effects sort of glows, you can sort of create separation between the planes very cheaply in terms of effort. It's super. It takes just very minimal effort, and it creates a nice, nice sense of depth.
Yeah.
And again, try to think of gradients, right? Everything you treat, for example, the mast here should have a gradient to it in terms of lighting, in terms of busyness of design, in terms of all that. Same for that part over there. I just added a bit of gradient there because it was just slightly too flat. It's just slightly too even. So just adding a bit of gradient there also separates it from the gun and makes the shape look more complex and voluminous overall.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm sorry I cannot spend any more time. I'll just take a couple more minutes to say goodbye and see if we have any comments.
If anyone has any sort of last minute quick comments or anything, then fire away. But while Arthur's still here, I'll say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and do this for us. It was amazing to see all of the advice that you had and some tricks that I don't think we'd really seen on the streams before. Like everyone was saying, like every minute of this critique session has been gold. So it really has.
Okay.
It's amazing. And it was a pleasure to have you, and it was great to have everyone. Great to have everybody in chat as well. Thank you so much, guys. We will we'll try and send out the Photoshop documents after this. I'll get Arthur to send them to me, and then
I'll prepare them for sure.
I'll send them on. Yeah, that'd be great. Just a quick reminder before we finish up, we've got 4 more days until the end of our Tavern Trouble competition. So if you haven't started yet, then now is your time. You've got until the 18th of December to submit that, and then we'll be covering all of our winners and everything on Wednesday the 20th. So be sure to get something in for that. There's been loads of great submissions so far, but we'd love to see more. The more the merrier. You can check out the brief and put your submissions in our Discord server. But until then, I will let you go, Arthur. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
See you later.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
See you later, everybody in chat, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.